All right, let's get right into it. We're talking about one of the most powerful and, honestly, one of the most misunderstood products in the entire financial world, variable universal life insurance. You'll hear it called VUL. And it promises the absolute best of both worlds, but as you'll see, it also comes with some really serious risks. So, right off the bat, the question everyone has is, what is this thing, really? You know, is it a life insurance policy there to protect your family? Or is it some kind of high-octane investment vehicle that's designed to grow your wealth like crazy? And the answer is, well, it's both. And that's the whole point. VUL literally wraps a life insurance policy around a direct market investment account. This hybrid nature is exactly what gives it such incredible potential, but it's also the very source of its biggest dangers. So yeah, let's call it what it is, a high-stakes financial hybrid. The idea is you're getting permanent life insurance, but instead of that cash value sitting in some safe, slow-growing account, you are plugging it directly into the ups and downs of the stock market. Okay, so let's look at the basic building blocks. You've got four main parts here. First, the permanent life insurance. That's the foundation. But then you have the cash value, which is really the engine of the policy, and it's invested in these things called market subaccounts. And on top of all that, there's a ton of flexibility. You can adjust your premiums, you can even adjust the death benefit. It's not some rigid set-it-and-forget-it contract. So let's pop the hood and look at that investment engine. How do your premium dollars actually get turned into those potential market-beating returns? And this part is absolutely crucial to understand. Sub-accounts. You gotta forget the idea of a simple savings account. Think of these more like a menu of investment funds, almost exactly like the mutual funds you'd see in a 401k, but they're living inside your life insurance policy. And here's the key. You are the portfolio manager. You choose where the money goes. So the cash flow is actually pretty straightforward. First, you pay your premiums. And a lot of people try to overfund them, putting in extra cash to get more money invested faster. Second, you direct that money into the sub-accounts you've chosen, aggressive, conservative, whatever fits your style. And third, you watch. Your cash value is now tied directly to the market. It will rise and fall with your investments. Simple, right? But the implications of that last step are huge. Okay, now that we know how it works, let's get to the good part. Why would anyone take on all this risk? Well, the answer is the incredible allure of market growth, which then gets supercharged with some really unique tax advantages. And this right here, this is why it's so tempting. It really is like a financial treasure chest. You get the potential for uncapped market returns. All that growth happens tax-deferred. You can even borrow money from your policy, tax-free. And of course, the death benefit passes to your heirs tax-free. It's a very rare combination of aggressive growth potential and powerful tax sheltering. And let's just focus on this for a second, because this is the single biggest selling point. Unlike a lot of other cash value life insurance policies that might cap your returns at, say, 10 or 12%, with a VUL, the sky is the limit. There is no ceiling. If your funds have a killer year and go up 20%, your cash value gets to participate in all of that gain. Unlimited. Unlimited growth potential, tax-free access to your money, it sounds almost perfect, doesn't it? Almost too good to be true. Which, of course, leads us all to that one critical question. So what's the catch? And believe me, the catch is a big one. This is the other side of the coin. We're talking about the high cost of all that risk and why a VUL can actually implode and become worthless if it's not managed almost perfectly. First things first, the fees. Oh, the fees. VULs are just notorious for having multiple layers of costs that are constantly eating away at your returns. You've got mortality charges, the pure cost of the insurance itself, admin fees, management fees for the investment funds. All of this gets pulled from your cash value before you ever see a dime of growth. It creates a constant drag. And this quote right here is a really critical warning. The biggest danger isn't just that your policy grows slowly. It's the risk of total and complete policy failure. If you don't pump enough money into it, especially in those early years, it can very easily run out of steam and just die. So how does a policy actually collapse? Well, it's kind of like a perfect storm. Step 1, the market has a bad year, or a few bad years, and your cash value gets hammered. Step 2, at the exact same time, the internal cost of the life insurance is getting more expensive every single year just because you're getting older. So those rising costs start eating away at your now dwindling cash value until, poof, there's nothing left. The policy implodes. And this chart just says it all, doesn't it? People buy a VUL expecting to get those juicy stock market returns, somewhere in that 7 to 10% range. But the reality, after you subtract all those layers of fees and the rising insurance costs, is that a well-run policy might only net you something closer to 4 to 6%. That performance gap over 20 or 30 years is absolutely massive. And now for the absolute hands-down worst-case scenario. It's called a lapse in tax event. So remember those awesome tax-free loans we talked about? Well, if your policy collapses while you have a loan out, the IRS suddenly says, hey, that loan wasn't a loan, it was income. So in the same year, you are left with zero life insurance and a massive tax bill. It is a true financial catastrophe.
Okay, so we've seen the incredible, amazing upside and the absolutely terrifying downside, which brings us to the most important question of all. Given how high stakes this thing is, who is it actually for? Who should even consider this?
To figure that out, let's put it in context. If you look at VUL next to whole life, you can see whole life is all about guarantees and low risk. Then you have Index Universal Life, or IUL, which is kind of a middle ground. And then, way over on the end by itself, you have VUL. It's all alone in the high-risk, unlimited ceiling, no guarantees corner. This is a specialist tool for sure. And this right here might be the most important slide. The ideal user for a VUL is a very, very specific person. We're talking about a high-income earner who's already maxing out their 401ks and their IRAs. They have an aggressive risk tolerance, a long time horizon, and, this is key, they can afford to substantially overfund the policy, especially in the early years. For pretty much everyone else, especially if you want guarantees or predictable income, this is a product to avoid. And that's really the big takeaway here. Think of a VUL like a Formula One race car. In the hands of a professional driver on a closed track, it can do things no other car can. But would you use it to go get groceries? No way. It's impractical and dangerous. A VUL is a powerful tool, but it is absolutely not a universal, one-size-fits-all solution. I don't think I can say it any better than this. The two potential outcomes here are just so extreme. When it works, it can outperform almost anything else. But when it fails faster and more spectacularly than any other kind of insurance out there. And so that leaves us with the final question. And this one is really for you to answer for yourself. You've seen the promise, you've seen the peril. So you have to ask, is that incredible potential for unlimited tax-free growth worth the very, very real risk of a complete and total policy collapse? The answer? Well, it depends entirely on you.